let's get this out of the way first. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of spoilers. I'm spoiling the heck out this thing when I feel like I need to. Yeah. But yeah, let's get my initial thoughts out of the way. I will give a full-fledged review after this, whenever I make this. I think it is better than the first film. It is much more entertaining than the first film. Nothing in this frustrated me like the first film. I think they really ups the ante with the set design, and it really felt like that they knew they were more confident with themselves, especially Scott with wanting to portray everything that his franchise did. I really love the designs of the toys, and I think the voice acting by Kellingoff, Matt Pat, and Megan Fox was really done. And I was especially surprised by how good Megan Fox was in this. I think she was utilized really well in this. And obviously, I think Mike and Vanessa has a lot more stronger connection to not only themselves and everyone they cared about, but to the story as well. But yeah. And I just enjoyed this a lot more than the first film. The first film, I give it like a 7 out of 10. There's a lot of things that just drag, a lot of moments that frustrate me as well. And I think for the first Five Nights at Freddy's film, it should have been better than just another horror film. But I don't hate it. This one, I think it's just another horror film, but it's done much better than the first film does. It feels a lot more scarier, and there were moments that actually caught me. And it just felt a lot more satisfying to watch. So I'd give it a 9 out of 10 overall, though I'd probably bump it down to an 8 in the future. Yeah. But that's not why I'm here today. I got my initial review done. I will expand upon much later on Instagram, Facebook. I don't have TikTok, so I'm not TikTok. As well as YouTube Shorts as well. And for my weekly review, I will obviously be reviewing this film. But yeah, that's not why I'm here. I'm here to give fair and valid criticism. But something that I felt during watching this film was it could be better. And that's what I hoped for when it came to this film. During the trailers, I definitely think that they improved on a lot of things that the first film did. But that was for the trailers. And watching this, I was right. They did improve. But not the way that I hoped it would be. I definitely think there were loads of moments that either should have been left out or just been fleshed upon. I can't remember them initially. I might need to go back and rewatch it to remember which scenes I think should have been improved upon. But still, there were a load of moments that didn't really land with me as much. Again, I don't hate this film, not by a landslide. It's not the terrible film that critics have been raving about, but it's not the 10 out of 10 masterpiece we were all hoping it to be. So yeah, I have a bunch of points here that I'd like to expand upon. I'd like to talk about what exactly I think went wrong with this film, what went right with this film, and how I think they should improve when making the third film. Yeah, so let's get into them. Now let me reiterate the main thing I need to say throughout this. Scott, Jason, Emma, everyone who made this, and everyone who's watching this, you're going to hate me, but I think you should listen to the critics this time. I mean, sure, critics are wrong a lot of the times. Now let me give you some hot takes, according to a lot of people here. I enjoyed 65. I think it's a phenomenal film that really tugged to my heartstrings. I really liked the relationship between the main two leads. I thought the dinosaur shenanigans were really well handled, and it was really scary. And it just really left me happy a lot more than quite a few films have ever did. And I think it's better than the first FNAF film. So there's that. Sure, 65 is not well rated, and it's not even considered high quality or whatever, but unlike so many other films where I know they're bad but I enjoyed them, I can't give that to that film. I refuse to call it a bad film. I actually really liked it. And another film is Voyages. That film is apparently terrible, and it is kind of a bit bad, but I liked it. So yeah, but for the yeah, I'm basically just giving my opinions on some very bad films according to some multiple people, but I liked them, especially 65. And for the FNAF films, the first one I was pleasantly surprised, but over time I think that surprisement dwindled more and more. For the sequel, I feel like that's going to be the same, but I don't think that's going to be. But I don't think that's. But I feel like. But I did enjoy this a lot more. But yeah, Scream. I think I just gone off tangent. I'm sorry. But yeah, we shouldn't listen to critics all the time. I mean, I did not want to listen to any one of the critics calling this a terrible film. I mean, 12%. No, no, it's not terrible. It's not that bad. I think the first film is worse out of the two so far. But a lot of the times, the critics are there for a reason. They're there to give you an opinion that you should listen to if you want to improve yourself, not only as a filmmaker, but if you're making a franchise, you have to prove upon yourself in a franchise. Take, I'd say, take Star Trek. I don't think the first Star Trek film is well received. I haven't watched Star Trek, so it's not the best. That's not the best comparison, I guess. But yeah. First Star Trek is not well received, and then Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan is a much better film according to so many people. And here's some films that I have watched. The Puss in Boots film. The first film is alright. It's an alright time. The second film is unbelievably phenomenal. And I think that has come down with maybe the creators improving themselves and learning from their past mistakes in order to get much better as they go along. And for these films, I hoped that would be the case. They would actually improve themselves and actually write a better film. Because the main thing I was hoping for was that it was going to be a stronger story, a better script, and much scarier. I only got 2 of those. I only got 2 of those, being a stronger story, but not by much, and it's a scarier film. It is a scarier film. I'm not trying to flip you off, by the way. Yeah. I don't think the script is as strong as I hoped it to be. The first film, other screenwriters did write the script, and I will put up posts to prove it. I'm just going off from what I remembered. Other people did help write the script, but this one, it was solely Scott Cawthon. And I think that's where the main problems of this film kind of dwindles. Now, here's my first point. Scott, I know you're very sacred of this franchise, but I do think you should either take screenwriting lessons again or hire more screenwriters to tighten up the script and not make it feel predictable, as well as have it so the stakes feel like they are not, have it so that the stakes are actually high and the character arcs are earned. Because whilst I do think Mike and Vanessa are much stronger characters, and even Abby is much stronger, I do wish that they had a lot more going on to them than just trying to save Abby again. But yeah, there are a load of moments here and there that's just set up that it just doesn't feel like they're earned. I mean, even the ending feels unsatisfying. I mean, that's probably the case, and I think that was intentional, but really it was left off on a cliffhanger that I particularly don't like. I mean, I like it when they're in the post-credit scenes, like this film did, and it did it successfully, but not at the end. I mean, if it works, then it works. But this one, I don't think it worked as well. It worked as well. Now, full spoilers here. Again, if you don't like spoilers, skip this video entirely. At the end, the toys get beaten up by the OG crew who come in to save the day, a la Endgame style. And this is basically like the FNAF SFM animations of the characters versus each other. Is this exactly like that? Obviously, the original crew win. Yeah, I'm not joking. This is actually what happened. Again, full spoilers. I'm spoiling all of this. I'm not holding back. And yeah, the OG all pass on. And then Michael tells Vanessa to stay away from them because she caused so much carnage because she's related to some horrible people and has done bad things for somewhat noble intentions, I guess. Yeah. And in the end, the marionette possesses Vanessa for some reason. So she's going to be the big bad, I guess. So it's weird, I guess. It is. It is very weird. But yeah. And it's just you're just like, really? That happened? Okay, you have a big FNAF fight between multiple groups of animatronics and then boom. You just end like that, I guess. That's weird. But yeah. Now this is obviously supposed to set up the third film, but really it just doesn't feel satisfying overall. It doesn't feel like the film lands on its own. Because I think a film should land on its own a lot more than it doing otherwise if it's going to set up a sequel. If it's like Dead Man's Chest or Avengers Infinity War, where it stands on its own, but it is setting something up, I think it could work, but this one really didn't. But yeah, and quite frankly, it just felt weird. Let's be honest. I think if Scott actually hired a lot more some more screenwriters to help tighten up the script, then these sort of things could still be in the film, but it would make it feel a lot more natural than it initially did. Because all we got was FNAF 1 versus FNAF 2, and then the animatronics they die, and then the marionette possesses Vanessa for some reason. Why? Just why? I don't think it. Really don't think it was sold that well for what the film did. But yeah. And another thing is Scott, you don't need to base everything on a load of tropes without spinning them in an interesting way. I think a lot of the problems with this film is solely due to the writing. And I think it all just boils down to maybe just hiring more screenwriters to help tighten everything up. I know this franchise is sacred to you, Scott, but you do really need to think these things through because, again, you're making a film. You're making a film. And a lot of the times when it comes to film lovers, when it comes to movie lovers like myself, we're looking for really good stories. I mean, let's say this: the third Sonic film. That's a really good film, and not just for its fan service, but also the fact that it's well made and it was well told. The Super Mario Brothers film, whilst I don't think it's as strong as I was hoping it for, it is a well told film. And the Minecraft movie is bonkers. Let's be honest. But yeah, yeah. But for this, I was hoping for it to be a much stronger film overall. And I'm saying this as a movie lover. I'm sure everyone who's a FNAF fan really enjoyed this film. I enjoyed this film, but that doesn't mean you should not sacrifice really good storytelling. So that way you could bring new people into this franchise. Because that's the main thing you need to do. If you can make a really good film, then you could be bringing in a lot more people into this franchise. And I think that could really, really build up the excitement for the third film. Because so far, I'm not really sure if I'm excited for a third film, just from the writing alone. Now let's skip from the screenwriting aspect so far. Another thing is don't rely on cheap jump scares to satisfy the audience. I mean, those cheap jump scares did make me jump, and it all was related to the marionettes. Yeah, she scared me the most out of the bunch, and it's mainly the blink and you'll miss it moments where she just jumps at the audience. I think that really worked. But what makes a really good horror film is the suspense. Now let me take inspiration. Now let me give you a good example. Alien. I've not watched it, but I know it. But I do know it. Yeah. Alien. That film, the creators, Ridley Scott, they hide the xenomorph throughout the film, even in plain sight. What makes the horror in that film work so well is the fact that the monster hides throughout the film. You do not see it to the end. And sure, in this one, that wouldn't work. But I think if you want to make it a much scarier film, you do need to improve the horror instead of just cheap jump scares. I think what would have made this film a lot more scarier is if they hide the rest of the toys. I mean, that's what worked with the puppet, Balloon Boy, and Mangle when they killed those three people at the beginning of the film. Yeah, and for the main three toys, you just see them and you expect them they're going to start killing people, which they only kill one person, which is kind of a bummer. Let's be honest. And you're just not really as scared of them. And really you don't feel as threatened by them as well. I think what really should have happened is if they hid Toy Freddy and Toy Bonnie a lot more, and have it so that they make their sudden appearances feel a lot more threatening. Hide most of them to be able to scare them. I mean, that's what worked so well with the trailers. They hid most of the characters, especially the puppet. I think the best decision that they made for the trailers is hiding the puppet the most. But then you see her at the beginning and you don't feel as scared by her. But I did feel scared by her and did feel threatened. And I think what it should have done is build the suspense. Have it so that Toy Bonnie and Toy Freddy actually scare the audience or make them feel suspense by hiding them in plain sight a lot more than they actually did in the films. Instead of just them showing up behind the characters, then just for long enough, maybe make it so it's like their eyes are just flashing bright. That, I think, could have worked. And it all just boils down to me wanting them to hide the threat more. I mean, Toy Chica, we've already seen her. I don't think that bothered me that much. I think Toy Chica with her beak was the least threatening out of the three. But have it so that you hide Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, and Mangle a lot more. And that's what worked with Mangle. She was a lot scarier than the rest. And it really worked with a lot of the scare factor and the jump scares that happened. I think that really worked. And I think they really should have leaned into them hiding the threats a lot more. Yeah. But also really taking their time to set a mood. And when the time comes perfectly, scare the audience with something more than just cheap jump scares. Maybe like a simple chase scene where they're trying to escape a room, but the threat is coming. And do this when they're at the most vulnerable or their least vulnerable. Yeah, another thing for the horror, to make them actually kill a lot more characters. So that way it'll actually feel like the stakes are much higher and you're not sure if the gang is going to survive. I mean, obviously you know they're going to survive, but make it feel like that they have the possibility, even if the slightest chance, they're not going to survive. Because really, the scares are there, but the horror isn't. And that is kind of disappointing. I mean, this is not a dig on Emma Tammy's directing. I think the way she directed the scenes worked really well. And the cinematography, I think, in these films are so impressive. I really like the way the camera angles are held in this. And I'd like for the camera angles, the really interesting dynamics and the angles and all that to continue in the third film. But I want those camera angles and good enough directing to be paired with a much stronger script and much more scarier moments. third point is take your time to make the scenes flow more naturally and have it so we have some Chekhov's guns moments that is utilized where previous scenes are paid off successfully. Now, we don't need every scene to pay off something, but I would like for multiple moments to pay off very well, very naturally. And I think the third film can really do that if they actually set their mind to do this successfully. Now, really, this entire point, it just goes back to my first point, the fact that it needs to be a stronger script. But I really think I do need to reiterate a lot more. All these problems can just be solved if it was a much stronger script, and the scenes would just flow a lot more naturally. Now, and then building off that point is don't use fan service to carry the film. Now, a lot of the fan service in this film, I did think it was utilized very well. My favorite moment, which is one half the audience laughed at, was when Mike was holding a Sanchi's plushie or a Good Stuff plushie, and then he pressed the Freddy plushie, and it just did the iconic mockery of the Freddy laugh that in the Toreador March. You know which one I'm talking about. I'm not doing it. That was good fan service. I like they brought back Corey Kenshin as that's a nice running gag. I would like them to bring them back in the third film, though I don't know how you're going to do that with Springtrap or one of the Phantoms or anything. Another moment, I don't really want to spoil this, but a certain big character appeared in a closet. And this certain big character relates to Vanessa in relation of how she is related to Afton. That's all I'm going to say, but that gave me the biggest surprise. And sure, it's just a moment, but that really surprised me, and I'd like to see that being paid off in the third film. Do not waste that, because if you're going to set up something like that, you're going to need to do it correctly. That was my favorite moment in the entire film, and I think it worked. Yeah, and much like how the Matt Pack cameo, I think that worked perfectly. I think those moments in this film worked perfectly as well. Sure, they're cheesy, sure, they're just there, and sure, they're just not really utilized that well. I mean, additionally, it feels like that you just don't need to include it, but I personally was satisfied with the way they did that. But a lot of the times, but you gotta remember, this is still a film, and you do need to carry this more on its own. It needs to carry itself on its own merit, without something just being pulled straight from the games, the books, the merchandise, and all that, without having it feel like it has a reasons to do that. Yeah, fan service works when it's naturally woven into the scene. The moments I talked about, they worked because, well, previously with the Freddy plush, Mike was trying to cheer Abby up by giving her any free merchandise so she could feel a little happy, and that actually sets up the Faz talker that Abby gets, that the marionette talks to her through. So that's some good. I actually thought that was good writing, and I think that was one of the only scenes that felt natural, and the dialogue felt real, and it didn't feel corny or anything. And I think that little joke there, the fan service with the Freddy Toreador laugh, I think that was really well done and well handled. Yeah. And the certain big character who showed off, I think that was good fan service, because it actually happens during Vanessa's dream that she's trying to remember of her father. I think that did work. And the certain big character that showed up, I think that works because of the way she's related to Afton. And that certain big character who is related to Afton is in that certain big way. So yeah, I think those work. I think the moments that didn't work is the endgame style ending with the FNAF fights. I don't think I think that was just very cheesy, even though it it did feel like it was pulled straight out of the Twisted ones when the original gang was fighting the Twisted animatronics from that book instead these guys fighting the toys. I think that that was done well enough, but it could have been a lot better. And I think additionally the blink and you'll miss it moments, they're fine as well. I mean, I saw a arcade machine of candy from the fan game Five Nights at Candy's. That's actually in a FNAF film. I'm wondering if Emil Mako allowed this to happen. I would not be surprised if that was allowed. I loved that. That was one of the best moments I saw, and that was during the beginning of the film as well. But they don't. It doesn't need to be you, but you don't need to use them as the sole crux. You don't use them as the sole crux. I mean, it feels like that you need to have some certain knowledge of the franchise in order to understand what's going on. I feel like that was the case for the first film, but for the second film, you just need to know this first film in order to get idea of what's going to happen in the second film. And that's what I really wanted for these films, for them to stand on their own instead of just leeching off from the rest of the franchise. And I think just using a lot more fan service and all that, I don't think that was the way to go. I mean, sure, I might be misremembering here and there. I think the story was done well enough, and I don't think the fan service was crammed into every nook and cranny as much as I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to fake anything. I am genuinely trying to give my honest opinion whilst trying to remember everything as best as I can. You got to remember, I don't plan these very well. As most, it's a well enough script or just a bunch of notes right here. But still, I'm trying to give you my honest opinion without it feeling like it's artificial or whatever. Yeah. Another thing. Yeah, another thing, and this is a more little nitpick. Actually, it's not a nitpick. Don't bring another third act villain for the third time. You already did this twice with Afton and not Mike in both of these films now. They are just set up at the beginning and then they're not brought back to the end. Don't do that for a third time. If you do that for a third time, I'm not going to vouch for you. I'm not going to vouch for the third film. If you do that for a third time, no, you're lost cause. I'm only joking by that last one. But all of this just has to say is that whilst I really, really love this, I really think that they should have listened to the critics again. Again, critics aren't something that you should listen to all the time, but they are there to give valid criticism. I have a lot of problems with this film, and all of this can just be summed up by a much better script, much better utilization of the horror, much better implementations of fan service, as well as much stronger characters as well. So yeah, and all of this is have to say is that when you're making the third film, listen to what the critics have to say that was bad with the first two films, and go off from that to make the third film. Obviously, listen to the fans more. I mean, it's what the fans wanted. We wanted this film to be scarier, and we got that. Even if it's not as much as we hoped for it to be. What I hoped for this film was it to be a stronger narrative with better arcs for the characters, and to be much scarier. And technically, I got all those three, but not as much as I hoped for it to be. It all just revolves around, for what I said earlier, it's not the terrible film that the critics were raving, but it's not the 10 out of 10 masterpiece we were all hoping it to be. And at this point, I feel like that I'm not going to defend a third film if they're just going to do the same thing again. Again, I don't hate this film. I really enjoyed it. But there will come a time to when even I'm not going to defend the decisions that you guys made when it comes to this film. So yeah, my final point is that I've said this already. Listen to the critics this time around, but don't take everything they said to heart in the wrong way. Yeah, just take enough that it does seem like you've listened and you're improving yourselves. Yeah, to not only make a better film overall so that way new fans can join in, but to prove that these films aren't just the generic slop that nostalgic Gen Zers would waste their money on. Because really, what these films are doing, it just doesn't feel like that they're trying to prove that this franchise is much better, is anything other than just another kids game. Because these aren't kids games. They're horror games. The first game is really terrifying. And I refuse to believe that that's a kids game. And so many of the games that were made are really scary, and they do really good horror as well. And the films, I was hoping to prove that video game films aren't just lazy cash grabs. They are much better than what people has to say. And I'm hoping that much like the Sonic films, which the first two were alright, but the third film was really good, I'm hoping you listen to what I have to say, to what the critics have to say, to what the fans who have similar opinions to me has to say. You need to work on the script a lot more, to better utilize the characters, and to really drive up the horror a lot more than just jump scares. And to hide the threats as well. Really hide the threats this time. Now again, this is not me saying this out of malice, which is probably obvious. I'm saying this as a lover of this franchise. I've loved this franchise since 2016. And I've been fascinated by so many decisions that Scott has made, that Steelwood made, and that Jason and Emma has made as well. And this franchise means so much to so many people, including me. And to see these films to be just another average horror film that only the most diehard of fans would watch, it doesn't really paint a good picture to this franchise. Especially considering the fact that so many nerdy people, so many people from not very well looked upon communities and all that. So many people from those communities aren't looked on them in the most positive light, especially us nerds and all that, and us geeks. And I just hope that for the third film that you listen to what I have to say, you listen to what the critics have to say, and you listen to what the fans who really care about have to say, to improve upon your mistakes and to make a good film. Because that's what I want. I want a good film, not just a great... I want a good film, not a great not a great FNAF media. I want a well-told film, not another FNAF film. Because really, as much as I'll probably enjoy the third film, I'm not going to defend it if you're going to do the same mistakes over again. Because, really, I don't think listening to the fans would work this time. If you're going to just listen to the fans, I think you need to rethink your priorities. Because most fans will probably just be blinded by nostalgia, or blinded by their love for this franchise. And that's not going to work for people who actually want a good story and not just a good time. Because as much as I really did enjoy this film, if you do the same thing with the third film, I'm not going to be there to defend you. That's pretty much all I have to say. So yeah, to reiterate, better script, better horror, better characterizations, and better utilization with everything. Hide the villains. Make it feel scary. Ramp up the tension a lot more. Hire people who actually know what they're doing a lot more than what your crew has already been doing. I'm sure many of you people who've worked on this film are talented individuals, but I do think that you need to bring in some people who really know what they're doing to make it feel a lot better. And really, I just want the same cinematography done. I think the shots in these films are done really well. Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. This is not the most constructive essay, and really, there is a lot of moments of just me rambling on, and it does feel like that I'm not overly confident with what I have to say. But I'm hoping what I said is enough to say that I'm hoping for a better film for the third one. So yeah, anyways, that's the end of today's video, everyone. I do really want to know what you think about everything I have to say. And please build up of what I already said with some more constructive points and more criticisms that you've had with this film. I do, yeah. I'm saying this as a lover of the franchise and as a lover of film, like I reiterate multiple times. And I'm hoping that I'm not the only one who felt that way. Again, a good film is a good film, but I wished for more. So yeah. Anyways, that's the end of today's video, everyone. Please leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and leave a comment down below of what you thought of the film and what you think should have been improved and what you hope for the third film. So yeah. Anyways, that's the end of today's video, everyone. I want to say thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all later. Have a good one.